So you're thinking about buying a Nissan Leaf, but you do highway driving and you want to know realistically how far can you actually go on that 62 kilowatt hour battery pack? We're going to find out. Today we've got the highway range test of the 2022 Nissan Leaf Plus. We're going to head out on the highway and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour to get you a realistic highway range number for this Leaf. Before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. Now, as you can tell, we are not at our usual electric vehicle testing location because we now have a Grizzly smart charger, which allows us to track charging from home. So we should be able to head out right from here, do our test, come back and charge all the way up and see how many kilowatt hours of charge the Leaf takes. Pretty exciting. Shout out to Grizzly for making an awesome charger. Look at this. This is one of the reasons we wanted to go with Grizzly. 24-foot cable, super durable and pliable. That means we can have either our Tesla charging up right here, right next to the charger, or any of the press vehicles, regardless if it's the Leaf with its front plug, or even if we needed to run all the way to the end of the driveway, we could do it with Grizzly. So if you need a level 2 charging solution for your home or business with the new Smart Grizzly, check out Grizzly Chargers. They make some good stuff. The Leaf is all set here and ready to go on our test. We have our tire pressure set to 36 psi cold. The cabin is not preconditioned, but it's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And since we're going to be running our climate control at 73 degrees auto, that shouldn't really tax the battery at all to get going. It's been fun throwing this thing around. It's certainly a different choice compared to something like the Model Y, even though when we bought our Model Y standard range, it was actually cheaper than this SL Plus Leaf right here. But nonetheless, the Leaf is still eligible for the $7,500 tax credit, and you can often get some rebates at dealers. So still a valuable player in the EV marketplace. So without further ado, let's unplug this and get on the road. As soon as I can actually see the temperature, I'm going to have this at 73 degrees auto. I don't know. Oh, we don't really want to make it heat, do we? 73. I'm turning heat off. I'm turning heat off. Stop! I'm turning heat off. I don't think that's fair for it to make heat. But, you know what? Actually, no. We're running it at auto. So, 73 degrees auto. We're going. And we are going to have about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles before we actually get to the highway. So, all in, there will be about 4 miles of city driving, if you will, lower speeds. But we are going to turn E-pedal on, which will give us a little bit of regenerative braking right when we get off the throttle. And we're going to go into eco mode. I assume that just kind of dials back the throttle sensitivity, because when you put your foot all the way down in eco mode, it's just as fast as it is in normal mode. Maybe it'll give us some sort of eco to the climate control as well. It's given us 247 miles of estimated range right now, and it says if we were to turn off our climate control, we'd get an extra 8 miles of range. Some people ask, why don't you do a city loop or mixed driving loop for testing the range of electric vehicles? Why do you just do it on the highway? Electric vehicles do worse on the highway and they do much better in the city. Well, yeah, I know that, but realistically, if you're putting on over 200 miles in your vehicle in a day, you're most likely doing at least some sort of highway driving, and that's what you're most concerned about because that's going to suck your range down the most. If you're doing a lot of driving in the city, you're more likely than not going to put on less than 200 miles in the day, and then you can just get back home and charge back up and be ready to go for the next day. I suppose there are those edge case type of people who don't have charging at home and they strictly rely on DC fast charging or supercharging or maybe charging at work, and then yeah, it might be useful for you to know how much range can you get in the city, but EPA range numbers tend to be fairly accurate for electric vehicles when it comes to mixed driving and city driving. It's highway driving at 70 miles per hour that you really have to test because the EPA test only averages 48 miles per hour for its highway loop. So when you actually get out on the highway, you got the climate control running, you're doing 73 miles per hour or 70 or something like that, then that's when it's much more valuable to really see how these vehicles can fare in the real world. We're not trying to get the best possible range number here. We're not hypermiling. We're not trying to eke out the most efficiency. We're just trying to drive normally and see what sort of numbers people can actually expect cruising on the highway. We're going to set our cruise control at a GPS indicated 73 miles per hour. We're going to have to dial that up a little bit here to 75 on the dash to get us about 73 on the GPS. So we're not going to draft, we're not going to drive aggressively, we're just going to try to cruise along. The Leaf is actually pretty darn quiet. You do hear a decent amount of wind noise right now, but I think we're driving into a bit of a headwind, so we'll see what that's like when we're coming back in the opposite direction. But yeah. And Nissan seats are very comfortable, so should be plenty good to cruise along for the rest of the drive. We do have an active steering assist as well, so you can see it's keeping us in lane. There's adaptive cruise control. So we're going to continue on with the rest of the test and catch up with you at the end. In the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. Coming into the end of the highway fuel economy test here in the 2022 Leaf Plus, we are averaging 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour according to the vehicle's computer. We are at 44% battery remaining at 99 miles. We'll have to crunch a few more numbers once we actually get back to the house and charge things up and everything, but it's been a smooth highway cruiser. Decently comfortable in the seats. Sound system's actually a little bit better than we expected. We gave that a test here, the 7-speaker Bose audio system. The active steering actually works pretty well as well, the ProPilot Assist. You do have to touch the steering wheel about every 10 seconds, so a little bit more frequently than a lot of other vehicles. What else? Yeah, it's been decently quiet and comfortable in here. The adaptive cruise control is a bit conservative as well, but not quite as much as a Toyota product. We did switch from heat to AC on the auto climate control about halfway through the test. Right now it says if we turned our climate control off, we'd gain an extra 2 miles, even with 96 miles left. So I think it has an effect, but not a huge effect. So yeah, we're going to take it nice and easy back to the house, about another 2 miles, get it plugged in and let it charge up. We'll see what our final miles per kilowatt hour number is once we get back to the house. Rolling up to the house, 102.8 miles done and 43% charge left, so 57% charge used up. Still 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour, but let's charge it up, see actually how much energy we actually use. We'll also compare it to some of the other EVs we've tested. The Leaf ended up taking 36.865 kilowatts to fully charge up. Taking the total miles traveled, 102.8, and dividing it by 90% of 36.865 is giving us 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. And based on the 62 kilowatt hour battery, giving you 192 miles of highway range. And that's a little bit lower than its EPA mixed driving estimate of 215 miles. How does that compare to some of the other EVs we've tested? It's definitely on the lower side of actual miles per kilowatt hour, especially considering we tested it in just about ideal conditions for any vehicle. 70 degrees Fahrenheit outside, the air conditioner doesn't have to work very hard, the car didn't really have to make heat. Compared to some of these other tests, I mean, we tested the ID4 at 86 degrees and it got 3.2 miles per kilowatt hour. We tested the Mach-E and that was at 36 degrees Fahrenheit and that only got 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, definitely the lowest we've seen. We've tested our long-range Model Y in both cold temps and warm temps, and you can see how dramatic of an effect the temperature has. Now, mind you, these later tests were also done with tires that were a little more worn down, but still, pretty dramatic effect in miles per kilowatt hour when it comes to temperature. Most efficient highway test we've ever done is our Model Y in May of this year. We just barely squeezed out 138 mpge, but very, very close to that was the Hyundai Ioniq Electric coming in at 136. And as I said, the lowest was the Mach-E at 85. but Leaf is kind of placing right there in the middle, decently at 104. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Leaf, check the links in the description. We will have these EV testing records put up in some sort of public place on our website here soon. Just kind of waiting to polish off the list a little bit more and get it a little bit more robust and well put together. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.